What's up? Something like that, dude. What's going on, dude? Okay. So here we are. We're live. Is this your first podcast you're doing?
No, this is actually my third ever podcast.
Nice, dude.
But both times that I did it, I was one of the hosts.
Hmm.
And they were both temporary types of podcasts. So this is my first time being a guest on a
Cool.
podcast. Yes.
Well, you could flip around the dynamics at any point and host if it's more comfortable,
Okay.
more natural for you, dude. But yeah, so
Hello, Internet.
hello, internet, dude.
Good to be here.
Dude, hey, maybe one day this episode will be looked back on as a jewel. You know, like when all these artists have all these studio outtakes and
Oh, the springboard.
you know whatever it is for
Where
or
it
the
all
early
began.
or the early stuff, the early archives, dude. And you're like,
If you're listening, it's either Nirvana or you lose 10 IQ points. There's no in between.
Are you a Nirvana fan?
Only the big songs. Like I haven't followed so closely.
What kind of music do you like?
All right, so I've been bouncing around a lot.
Oh,
Like
yeah?
on the way here, I listened to Lion King
Nice, dude.
because Hans
awesome.
Zimmer is having a show in Brooklyn
No way.
on February 6th. I was looking at tickets way outside
Is
my
it
budget.
him himself or his music with an
A
orchestra
whole orchestra
playing his music?
playing music from movies, and I assume he'll probably throw in some of his own stuff also that's not in the movie.
Wow.
Unfortunately, I can't go. It's a little outside my budget range.
Really? It's a
I was
fortune?
it's like $200 to sit all the way on the outside.
No way.
I wanted to go with my roommates. It's not gonna happen. Anyways, I was looking through his Spotify stuff, and he has just such interesting pieces in there, like Lion King.
Totally.
He also has Call of Duty on there, Pirates of the Caribbean, and I'm just like,
Dude, that
this
guy.
is great stuff.
Do you consider him above or equal to or below John Williams?
Oh, it's so tough.
Because John Williams is Indiana Jones, Star Wars, Harry Potter,
Oh,
the
his
movie
stuff
Hook,
is
if you remember
so
Hook with
memorable.
Robin
Yeah,
Williams
I
and
remember.
Dustin Hoffman playing Captain Hook.
I don't know if I'd put him above. His stuff is just so cinematic.
It's so iconic.
Yeah. When I was saying that, I was talking about Hans Zimmer. Okay. It's
Yeah.
this big, like swelling, and I don't know. It gets into my feels. John is just, I don't know. You remember them so easily. They're like these subtle and nice, and they're also part of my childhood. So
Yeah,
there's that
dude.
special element to them. Yeah, John Williams, a legend. I don't know, but people who can write music like that, now that I mess around with music a little bit more, it's just I have a much more profound respect for what
It's
they do.
crazy,
It's
isn't it?
amazing, yeah.
There was a guy just died from the Grateful Dead. It's Phil Lesh, the bass player, and he was famous at the time. He's known to be a genius. All the Grateful Dead were brilliant, crazy brilliant. And Phil Lesh was a trumpet player that had this perfect pitch, I think, or no, perfect memory when it comes to music. I don't think I know if he had perfect pitch in terms of singing. I don't think he had a good voice, but he used to sit on park benches when he was in college, or I think in college, maybe in high school, and actually write symphonies on paper, right? And
Nice
he
hobby.
wouldn't have most people need a piano. They need something to write by.
Okay.
You know, and then they could kind of layer it and they could mess around with how it's going to sound, or also with the piano. I guess not at that point, but you can with the synth now or electric one, you can replicate any sound you want.
Yeah.
So
My keyboard does that.
do you mess around with different sounds like that?
Absolutely. I make this loop music.
It's probably so much fun.
Oh, it's so much fun. My roommates, I don't know how much they love it when it's late at night, but yeah, this electric keyboard plugs into a loop station, and then the keyboard has 500 preloaded instruments.
That's awesome.
And the loop station can loop melodies, so I can basically act as the whole band.
Yeah.
I'm not so talented yet, but with a little more practice, that could be a
Definitely,
lot
dude.
of fun. Yeah. Wait, do you know the beginning story of the Grateful Dead?
I know a
You
bunch.
know a lot more about the Grateful Dead than I do.
What story do you know?
I've read bits and pieces from the book, The Kool-Aid Acid Test.
Mm-hmm.
Have you read that book?
I did not. I'm familiar with it. I didn't read it.
Okay, so I read it a while ago, so I don't remember all of the pieces.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a mixture of, the whole LSD uprising.
Psychedelics, yeah.
and the band coming together and just some of their crazy, what are they called, like the Merry Adventures, something like that.
that was Neil Cassidy.
Oh, what's his deal? Is he part of the band?
No, he's not. But he was part of. He was like the end of the beat, like culture, beat world, beat generation.
Okay.
He wrote a famous book on the road again. Oh no, that was Jack Kerouac. Neil Cassidy bought a bus, named it Further.
Yes, yes.
and that was like the destination that they were always going was further.
They were definitely going further. If you
So
read
far,
some of the
dude.
stuff that they were
So
doing,
far.
oh my God.
The problem is, actually, the interesting thing is that I've found that a lot of books that I've read about the dead are not written in a very entertaining or engaging kind of way.
Okay.
I found that they're more dry reads or a little bit more just like a crazy amount of information to process.
Okay.
You know, and it doesn't. They don't tend to flow like a story. And I guess it's just the style of people that were writing documenting in the 70s and 80s. It's just a totally different style than writing today. But it's tough. Yeah. So the Roots, yeah, dude. They would start by playing. They would start as a band called the Warlocks.
Okay.
And in the early 60s, so
Okay.
64, 65, and they would play at what we would call these acid tests. And the only way to pass the acid test was to pretty much not go crazy while you were there. And you're like, if you can hang, then you're fine and you're welcome back again.
Okay.
Exactly. But they
Wow.
never got, at the time, LSD wasn't illegal. And they were never doing anything that was technically illegal. So cops would come all the time. There was no alcohol that was there. There was, generally speaking, these would take place at.
Sorry.
It's all right. I want to just get this relit. They would generally take place where these buildings had dance permits and stuff like that. So they wouldn't have that kind of problem. And then the cops really wouldn't know what to do. Everyone was just acting weird, and they were just like, they're not doing anything illegal, And more than once, someone in the crowd just like, "Hey, officer, you want some orange juice?" And
Yeah.
they'd spike the officers with LSD, which is pretty crazy, dude.
Yep. And they were doing insane amounts.
Yeah, and on a daily basis.
Yeah. On LSD, I don't know what the whole, like how you measure, but I know it's, what is it, micrograms?
I think so.
And what you probably do 100 to 300 micrograms if you're gonna take a tab, but they were just drinking cups of it.
Yeah, dude. I mean, Jimi Hendrix super famously would dip his bandana into an LSD laced drink or whatever, or water, and then it would seep into his skin while he was playing, dude.
Oh my God.
And that's why he's Jimi Hendrix. And that's why no one else. That's why no one else is Jimi Hendrix. I don't know if you're still lit, but I was super interested in their philosophy. I was
Philosophy?
The Dead were constantly. First of all, they're absolutely no interest in commercial success. They just wanted to do what they enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
And they just wanted to have fun but they wanted to have fun. It's interesting in the best way that they could, So it's a weird combination of discipline, in some regards, and absolute lack of discipline or values in other regards, And they would just they would just kind of combine, and they'd combine and just form this bizarre, not at all interested in money, but just a group of people that just want to have fun, but they want to be as good as they could be at having fun.
They just want to jam.
That was it, dude. And they didn't want to ever be boxed in, and be stuck being themselves, which is what part of what they said the goal of taking so many drugs were, or at least at the beginning, because there was two drug scenes. There was the amphetamine and heroin and coke scene, and then there was the LSD psychedelic shrooms kind of scene. And
they were
obviously
developing together, those two strands.
they were happening at the same time.
Okay.
That eventually led. I mean, that's what killed Jerry Garcia was heroin, and coke probably, but just insane amounts of both.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that the heroin, amphetamines, opioids ruin ruined the scene. That's what killed the hippie scene.
Mhm.
The LSD and the shrooms and and the pot was pretty much just communicative. I mean, occasionally you'd have a couple of kids with a bad trip or people that were genetically inclined towards, schizophrenia or some kind of
Yep.
mental health problem that I'm
Right.
sure
Yep.
LSD would trigger.
Yep.
But they didn't want it. They would look at the drug like a way to help them get beyond the typical barriers that they knew were self-imposed by familiarity and comfort. And so, like, for example, if you're playing music, you might find yourself falling into playing a particular style, and it keeps on coming up again because it's just a comfortable flow. But they want to get beyond that. So how do you break your neural associations?
Okay.
You open up your pathways with some natural,
Acid, yeah.
whatever, some
Fluid.
medicine,
Okay.
and then allow them to, and they would get lost. Like they would be like they would talk about how when they would jam, that like they'd be like, we have no idea where we're going musically right now. Like I have no idea how to get back, and I don't know where we went. I don't even know what key we're playing in anymore. Like it was crazy. They just didn't know what they were doing, but they just did it over and over and over again to the point that
They could just
it
flow.
went down to a science, dude.
Yeah.
I went to there's a place in Boca called Crazy Uncle Mike's.
Okay. Love the name.
Yeah, dude, you would love this place. It's a great vibe. It's next time you're in town, they usually have live music weekends, so Thursday, Friday, Saturdays, Sundays.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
And they have a lot of Grateful Dead cover bands. And I went to a cover band. There was a 16-year-old that was the lead guitar player.
Amazing.
Dude, I cannot tell you how floored I was by this guy. I'll show you a video. I'll show you a couple of videos videos of him after. And I'm like, I want to know what I can do to like get my kid to be that good at anything at that young of an age, dude. Because he was just he's just in the zone, and he didn't have presence. He wasn't singing. He was just standing in front playing lead guitar and just talking with the guitar. I mean,
Amazing.
completely conversational.
I've only seen. Actually, that's not true. I was about to say that I've only seen like a true state of flow on an electric guitar, but I have in the jazz world.
Piano.
I've seen a little bit of piano. Yeah. I don't know. They just get to like this familiarity where they don't even look at the instrument anymore.
Yeah.
And just everything is so fine tuned. Like you're saying, they can almost speak through the instrument.
That's what it is.
And
that's what I think people love about it. You could detect when someone's trying to say something with an instrument.
And I know that stringed instruments, you can almost put your emotional state into it.
Yeah.
Because of its nature, it's vibrating.
Yeah, yeah.
So
do you think that
music's wonderful, man?
Dude, I could talk about music forever, dude. I love music.
Music is wonderful.
So what other music do you like? What kind of music do you listen to? So you're listening to Hans Zimmer's The Lion King?
So before that, I was on a rock and roll tear.
Nice. What were you listening to?
I was going through a lot of Led Zeppelin.
Nice.
Which are just super fun, and kind of revisited a little bit of Queen also.
Nice. Can't go wrong.
And then in previous years, sometimes whenever I go to a festival, you get exposed to all these new bands.
What kind of festivals do you go to?
I'll cover that in a second. You need just like a good 3 or 4 months after to listen to all these bands.
Oh, yeah.
And just kind of go through each artist usually has so much stuff.
Have you heard Goose yet?
So, no, I haven't heard Goose yet.
You have not gone? You should go to Goose, dude. That's an experience.
And I've also never listened to Fish either. None.
I'm not a big Fish fan.
Okay, not a Fish guy.
I'm not a big Fish. I love the hell out of Trey Anastasio.
Okay.
I think he's incredible, and I love.
What is he?
He's the lead. He's the lead guitar player and singer for Fish and songwriter.
Awesome.
He's the soul behind the band. So you haven't listened to Goose. You haven't listened to Fish.
I haven't listened to Fish. Also, lately I was going through Michael Jackson.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
What's your take on listening to his music, dude? I can't listen to it.
It's like other artists also, like say Roger Waters.
Yeah, separating the art from the artist.
Yeah, where I know some of the things that went on in the
touching kids.
In the yeah, about that.
Right.
There's stuff that's in the back of my mind of like, I'm just trying to push this away because it's just excellent,
so unpleasant.
The sound. But I think the more you talk about it, the more it makes you not want to listen to music, and that makes sense. Because I've definitely just...
So what you could do is what you call disassociating.
Basically. Like like, this is so funky. I love listening.
Dude, the
to
music
it.
is incredible.
So funky. His
But
stuff.
I can't bring myself to do it. And you know what? So many better people have been canceled for so many stupider things. That I'm like, it drives me crazy. Like John Lasseter, you know who he is?
No.
John Lasseter was the creative mind behind the original Pixar movies and animation.
Okay.
Brilliant
Yeah.
guy. And he used to wear famously. He was known for going to work every day in Tommy Bahama style shirts, but that were customized with Pixar characters.
Cool.
And he quit in the middle of the Me Too movement for
So not so long ago.
not so long ago. He resigned and stepped down for giving well, I think it was the term was unwarranted or unsolicited hugs to employees that he felt did well.
Okay.
And
Wow.
so he said in the middle of the Me Too movement, he just got up and he posted like, I've made workers feel uncomfortable in our space, and I can't continue like this, and I'm going to step down.
Wow.
I was like, what is that for? He's like, unsolicited hugs. So I don't know if there's anything more to it, but like if like the guy behind The Incredibles and Toy Story and Cars and Monsters Inc. and whatever gets canceled for unsolicited hugs, and like Michael Jackson is like,
yo.
I'm like, it's almost not fair, man. Like, it's not fair.
Just erase.
No, do what you want, man. I mean, by the way, there is a tremendous. I think the whole conversation of separating the art from the artist is a really legitimate thing, you know. And I have personally a hard time with it because I take everything personally, and part of what I love about music is that I feel like it's personal.
Yeah.
And so it's hard for me to say, how can you make this seem so personal and do something so detrimental, you know?
Yeah, they just have this immense talent, but their moral world is not put together.
Yeah.
Legit.
Yeah, it's a shame. But the talent, I mean, that's part of what makes the talent come out.
You think so?
I think you need to be crazy. For a
Borderline,
lot of people.
borderline crazy.
No, I think that for a lot of people, a lot of creatives in particular, they require challenges for their music to become an outlet for.
Okay.
You know, and when things are good, you tend to notice that they kind of fall apart. You know, like the quality of the music usually will either get worse or change. You know, like I'm a Springsteen nut.
Okay.
I love Springsteen.
Brucey?
Yeah, Bruce,
Nice.
dude. I know everything about everything with him. His tour, like you could tell me like what you could play a concert, and I could tell you probably what year he was performing that concert and what the set list on that tour is going to be.
The reason I'm laughing is Bruce Springsteen does he have some song called like "This Is the End," something like that?
I don't know. Not that I'm familiar with.
Okay, we'll look for it after the podcast. But he has some song that Syrians love, and they always play at the end of their weddings.
Really? Syrians?
Syrians, yeah. My friend Joe was telling me about this. Yeah, it's a Springsteen song.
Really?
And I don't know if it's called "This Is the End" or "On and On." It keeps building and building, and they love it. And just when I went to his wedding and they played this song, it was just so funny to watch. You know, they're playing techno the whole time, and Bruce comes on, and everyone comes to the dance floor.
Oh, dude, it's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Was it Rosalita?
Yes.
Tonight?
Yes,
Rosalita come out
yes.
tonight.
Yeah.
That's a great song. Yeah, dude. That song is that was also he wrote that in 1972. He wrote that in 1972, and he did it because when he was playing for big bands, he was opening for like the Eagles, and he was opening for Cheech and Chong, and
Big stuff.
And they needed something to stand out from their half an hour set that they were getting that people would notice. So he would come up with a lot of big music that would change tempos like that, you know, and really build up and crash, and slow down and build up and crash. He's like, because no one's gonna pay attention to another singer-songwriter that's just singing about a broken heart, you know? Like you need something that's gonna, light a spark. And so he's like that. So he wrote like 5 or 6 different types of songs like that.
Okay.
That he would do before he even was really touring by his own fame. You know, like touring his own album. So when he was just getting, so he started writing that music for that purpose. But I mean, he was a super haunted person, guy.
Yes. There's this book I read a while ago called Highly Sensitive People, and one of the lines of thought that they kept bringing up was very creative people usually have this personality trait of being highly sensitive.
Yeah.
Okay. It doesn't mean emotionally sensitive.
Yeah.
It's almost like their nervous system is more sensitive than the average person's. So any emotion that they feel is just stronger.
Yeah.
Any life challenge that they're having is just amplified. And then their skill, especially if they're musically gifted or whatever their
Right. It's channeling those
ability
emotions
is.
into words and music.
Yes, they have just because of this sensitivity, they take all of this internal energy that's moving around and they become experts at channeling it into this vehicle, music, film, painting, whatever it is. So maybe that's why
I'm
they
sure.
have these low, very low lows.
I'm sure. And then something incredible comes from it a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And they just draw this amazing energy from it.
And the feeling also, I mean, part of what I love about music, or what I've always loved about music, was that I would feel like the artist would find a way to capture an emotion that I knew that I subconsciously knew that I was feeling, but I was never able to put words to the fact that I was experiencing it, you know? And then I was like, I didn't even know that I was feeling this until you put it like this. But now that you did, like, it makes so much sense. And like this, like I almost felt like I was able to discover another part of myself.
Free therapy, baby.
Dude, seriously, man. I think that if you're lucky enough to have a relationship to music and a couple of really good friends that you could really be blunt with, then that's one of the few really acceptable replacements for therapy.
Oh,
I think would lead to like a successful life. I don't know what the heck's going on with this bonfire, by the way. We're gonna get it, dude.
ladies and gentlemen, we've been trying to light this bonfire since
It's
the
been
podcast started.
21 minutes and 47 seconds.
It's a freezing night in Florida.
That's right,
as
dude.
in
60 degrees.
60 degrees, no sweaters.
Unbearable, dude. Unbearable. I'm sorry. I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna get this up and running.
No worries.
So Michael Jackson.
Yeah, so going
Queen.
through Led Zeppelin,
Led Zeppelin.
which was my favorite of basically almost anything I listened to. They were just.
I never got into Led Zeppelin.
Oh man, they spoke to my soul. They were.
Did they really?
Yeah.
What about them?
They have this style of it's not headbanging rock, but it's almost there.
Yes.
Okay. And mixed into it is this, you know, emotion that they put into it where you can kind of get what they're trying to tell you. It's not overly complex. You know, it's very consumable. And then also his voice is just he can do crazy things with it.
With Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, Led Zeppelin. I think his name is Robert Plant.
I don't remember. They broke up. They only had a couple albums together, right?
Yeah,
Because their drummer died.
Like 5, I think, 4 or 5.
Their drummer died, and they're like, we can't do this. We're not doing this without him, right?
That's beautiful if they did that.
You know, I think that's what happened. I'm not sure.
I was really enjoying them, especially "Stairway to Heaven." I mean, that was the first song that I heard by them. I'm like, this is insane.
Yeah, well, that's like.
And then you go down the rabbit hole, and also at the time, I was learning a lot about music, so I was paying a lot of attention to their guitar riffs, which are just. He's also another guitarist where he'll speak to you through the guitar.
So, when you're okay, are you self-taught music?
I was until about a year ago. Then I got a piano teacher, and just,
awesome, good for you. Really,
yeah, and it really accelerated.
It's awesome, isn't it?
Yeah, because I mean, this will probably translate into a whole nother conversation about education, but a coach just it speeds everything up so much. I love learning with YouTube and the internet.
I can't.
Sources.
By the way, I can't learn with YouTube.
Oh, guys, so
I need a human.
Okay, you need
being there
yeah.
to validate it.
So I love books and I love the independent study and that's all wonderful. But as soon as there's a coach there who just can kind of sling you through those first phases of when it's really rocky and you're not sure what to do and what to practice on. And they kind of just keep giving you material to consume until you start seeing progress.
So when you
faster.
when you're learning music, you were learning music theory.
So all of it started with theory because I had the loop station. So I basically said to the teacher, I have this loop station, I have the piano. I need you to basically teach me all of the chords as many as possible.
Yeah.
Teach me how to find the key and stuff like that so that I can mess around. And then I have a pretty good ear and a pretty good rhythm, and I'll just start finagling from there.
When you hear a chord, you can tell what the chord is.
I can't call it out. No.
Me neither. Okay, good.
Can't call it out. No way. Like whenever I jam with my friends, which doesn't happen that often, but in the occasional time that happens, I'll be like, okay, what key are we in?
Yeah.
Please let me know.
Yeah. Well, it's important.
And then I'm happy to join you.
Yeah, it's important though. It really is. And by the way, apparently playing with people is also one of the best ways to learn music or get better at music, which is something that I haven't done, unfortunately. But my buddy Kiwi, did you meet Kiwi last time you were here?
Of course, I love Kiwi. I've also played a lot of basketball with Kiwi.
Oh, you have?
He's a wonderful human being. Yeah,
I love him, dude. But he just bought a drum. He used to play drums on a drum kit.
Sick.
And he just brought one over. He just bought one and brought one over for us to start jamming together. Because
you have a whole room here.
Yeah.
It's basically a music studio.
Yeah,
I thought we were gonna podcast in there.
I have a lot of high hopes. If we're gonna move in there, if it doesn't.
Okay, no problem.
If this doesn't pan out.
Okay.
But yeah. So it's funny because I was trying to understand the way that people process music when they learn it.
Okay.
Right. I think there's a lot of people, especially if you learn theory, that look at music like almost like a math equation.
I hear what you're saying.
You know, where they'll say that this belongs with this family and this family, and that's why this is right or this is wrong. And you understand the relationship of the notes to one another to the extent that you could. And so when you're hearing music, you can piece together those puzzles in terms of your auditory comprehension in a similar way to the way that you'd plug in like a math problem or or something like that, where you
a lot of modern electric music is like that. It's basically they're just using predictable patterns of the rise and the fall and the drop.
But that's more about controlling tension, I think, isn't it, than the music itself?
I think it still relates to the mathematical element of it. They're not like dabbling so much in the quality. Like when I was taking piano lessons, whenever I would try to riff something, I'd be like, "Oh, that doesn't sound good." Like no note was missed. It's not like a bad key was hit or off key. It's just I didn't like the quality, and he would say, "It's not that it's the bad or the wrong key. You don't like the quality of it.
Yeah,
it doesn't feel right with what you're trying to express." So, but he's shown me a lot of music where it's so like weird and off-putting. It's because he's using kind of strange tempos and he's using strange quality of keys that don't usually sound so good next to each other, but he's trying. And after you listen to it for a while, it's like, okay, actually this is almost like a weird it's like a new relationship almost. It's like I have to just learn to be around you for a little bit, kind of understand you, and then wow, okay, you're interesting. You're taking me on these weird rides.
Dude, I'm so happy
I don't like
you put
you
it
as
like that.
much as I like that one, but I still appreciate you.
Yeah. Dude, I'm so happy you put it like that, because that's the way I think about it, about music too. I think about it like when you meet someone, there's certain things that initially jump out at you that determine whether or not you want to be friends with them, right? How they look, a physical appearance, something about them that looks put together or less, or more inviting or less, or wearing a sweatshirt or something, or glasses. Whatever it is, and then you go, this is someone that I could probably relate to, and then you try to get a deeper relationship with that person. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yep.
But when you hear music, a lot of times you're just judging it based on like the most superficial aspect of it, like how familiar or how used to this kind of melody am I? Is this something that like I've listened to music that's similar to this, so I like it? Is it something that's totally new and like I have to like process who are you first?
Yeah, you gotta stay with it.
We gotta go on a date, dude. You gotta go on a date, dude. I gotta find out. We gotta do a podcast together. I gotta find out a little bit more about you, and so I did this experiment with my high school class where we played the same song for a week. They never listened to rock. We played a Springsteen song for a week.
Okay.
And what they were able to notice and pick out from the music after a week as opposed to after a day or two was just so different, you know? I mean, they noticed different riffs, they noticed different phraseologies and terms that would be consistent throughout it. They would notice, a drum fill if someone was more inclined to notice something like that. And I'd be like, do you guys see like how different this was just from 2 days ago or 3 days ago? And it's cool. It really, it's fun.
Teaching them to develop their ear. That's
yeah,
awesome.
or at least open themselves to something new, you know,
Absolutely.
which is a tough thing to do. I have a hard time with that.
Mm. This, what you were just saying before about people has actually brought up a question in me. I'm very curious about you specifically because you're very good at talking with people, to people. Is this something you consciously developed, or is
Yeah.
this something? Yeah, so you spend time on it.
Oh yeah. It's
Do
a
you like talking to new people?
I love talking to new people, but I'm extremely bad at initiating engagement.
How do you mean? Like
Like,
starting a conversation?
yeah, exactly. So, like for example, if I'm at a brewery or at a cigar lounge or
Hmm.
something, and there's someone sitting next to me, I can go 3 hours and not say a single word to them.
Okay.
Like I just like sitting and looking at my beer or being on my phone or whatever it is.
Hmm.
And if they don't say anything, or I don't have a bunch of beers in me or whatever,
Okay.
whatever,
Hmm.
then I will not initiate the conversation. You couldn't pay me to initiate a conversation.
Hmm.
But the second that I get I guess the social societal okay, oh, what do you got there? How's
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
going? Whatever it is, I could talk to them for 100 years.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
so I don't like to feel like I'm bothering people, but once I see that the door is kind of opening up a little bit,
Yeah.
then I love
You can
then
roll.
yeah, then I can
Yeah.
roll. Sales are the same way actually. It's funny because I hate cold calling, but I'll close a lot. I have a good closing percentage of customers that are calling me because they know they want something and I can help them out. Because
Okay.
then
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm bothering you. I know there's something you need. I'm going to try to give you a hand.
Hmm.
And they
Feels
and they
almost
sense that
less of a
about me.
sale.
Yeah.
Like you don't feel like you're selling as much.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Okay.
I tend to have, I mean, especially because for the machines that I sell, they tend to be expensive and the deals take a couple, could take weeks or even months to close.
Hmm.
And so but I'm in touch with them throughout the entire time.
Okay.
And so, we'll talk over the course of a couple of weeks or a couple of months and I'll get to know the person.
Good stuff.
Yeah, it's fun, but I love to, yeah. So, but it's something I had to teach myself. It started with sales. It started with me. I was always afraid to like pick up the phone.
Mhm.
I was always afraid even going up to like call customer support. Like my Verizon phone's not working, and
Mhm.
like I would have like a deathly fear of calling the $15 an hour Verizon employee.
That's so funny.
Yeah, dude, it drove me crazy. It really did. And then I realized at some point during sales that everyone is probably just as afraid to pick up the phone and speak to a stranger on the other end, and like
Mhm.
they're not going to be any different than I am in that
Mhm.
regard,
Mhm.
And so,
A buddy of mine named Morty, very special friend of mine. He was telling me the other day we were having a whole talk about relationships and dating, but it kind of dovetailed into a conversation or having professional conversations, big stake conversations, that kind of stuff. And he was saying there are certain people that he's met that have this ability to they almost open this space in front of you that's very safe, for lack of a better
yeah,
word,
yeah,
and it just allows you to be very authentic in it. And but to build that space, it's like a little shaky at first.
yeah,
You might approach someone at first and just you try to establish it and it falls over, and just the connection is just not, it's not there. It's very frosty. But as soon as that space opens and like you can start to feel the,
yeah,
I don't know, maybe good vibes is the phrase, go
yeah,
back and forth, and just, I don't know, all this is happening unconsciously, subconsciously, but there are people who are they're very aware of it, and so they constantly work to cultivate it, and they're able to have just very high level conversations.
yeah. You know who's like that? Actually, both of us are familiar, I think, with this gentleman, Jason Brody.
Yes, Jason Brody's wonderful.
Jason Brody is incredible. One of the first things I noticed about him was
Loves to ask questions.
how good he is at getting people engaged in a
Hmm.
conversation.
Hmm.
And he does this thing where he keeps on throwing in your name
Hmm.
into the conversation while you're talking to them to make you feel like a
The most
million bucks,
special
dude.
person in the
Yeah,
world.
exactly. So Jacob, dude, it's so nice to meet you, Jacob. What do you do for a living, man? You're like, whoa, dude, like,
How do you know my name?
yeah, dude, like you remember that? Like you remember I did that for a living? And like, he's really, really, really good at making people feel like he's interested in what they have to say,
Hmm.
which I'm sure is, and I the truth is I haven't kept up with him as much as I would have liked,
Hmm.
but there's no doubt that I'm in my mind that he is and will continue to be successful, and I'm sure
Yeah.
that's a big part of it.
He's a special face
He lives on the Upper West Side, right?
that I get to run into every once in a while on the Upper West Side. It's funny how when you're going through school and stuff like that, the people that you would never ever expect you would have a relationship with, or you would see them way more often down the line.
Oh yeah,
A
dude.
random person you played basketball with, or some dude a year younger than you becomes your roommate.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, this person's awesome. I can't believe I had no idea who they were before. So,
But you know what's cool? I don't know about your experience. When I was in high school, it was not extremely common for people to be friends with people that weren't their age. And
yeah,
my
yeah.
understanding was in Cats, it was a little bit more, or Weinbaum was a little bit more
Maybe
free
a,
because it was a little bit smaller. Oh.
maybe a little more fluid, but there was definitely a sort of stigma
Yeah,
to just,
hanging
be a
out with
hang.
someone.
I
A
think
good,
that's just a young people thing.
you think so?
100%. Because as soon as you get to
I felt pretty
college,
strongly about it, dude.
yeah.
When I was in high school, I did.
Oh well,
Yeah,
yeah. In high
and
school,
then I went to.
it's definitely a thing.
And then
100%.
it is.
Yeah.
But then I went to camp, and I noticed that in camp, um, there was there was really no such. There was almost like no barrier in terms of grades. Like it was just a difference in your schedule. But like in terms of, I've noticed that, and then it made me rethink, why that is, and why I'm treating people that are literally the same age. I'm young for my grade.
Me too.
I'm a full year behind everyone.
Wow.
So I graduated high school in 2013, but I
Okay.
was the same age most people graduated in 2014.
Okay.
I was like, these people are the same age as me. Like, why am I treating them any different? Like, because I just happen to be in like a different class. Like, I'm gonna act like they're at all different. And yeah. And then obviously, I mean, my wife is 4 years younger than me. So, but I always said I was never gonna date a girl that was younger than me.
Until you did.
Until all the girls that were older than me, it didn't work out, and I was like, oh no, there's none left. I was like, okay, well, I went through every girl that the exact same age as me, and like upwards of like, let's say, up to 2 years older than me, and like that's it, man. Like I guess I just have to start going into the younger pool.
Yeah, I definitely dated some older girls. I'm just like, love you guys, but you're saying,
What do you think it is, dude? I love
don't know.
older girls, man. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know what it is that where the disconnect was, but here's my theory. It's just I had this feeling of I'm gonna keep growing like crazy, especially when I was in my young 20s, and I knew there was just
How old are you now?
27,
27.
and I knew there was just immense amount of growth ahead of me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Something about it made me feel like I was getting stuck in place.
It's interesting.
Yeah,
Do you think that their general attitude was a little bit more towards settling, and yours was more towards growing?
definitely, 100%,
That's what it is.
100%.
Yeah.
That's why, like, I felt like I was sprinting and they were walking.
But I think that's also but it's interesting because, at least from my experience, people found that trait of wanting to grow and being very ambitious a very attractive trait. Like a lot of people would want to go out. Like I would date a lot of girls, but it wouldn't stick ultimately. I think largely in part of what you're saying right now. But I think there was something initially exciting and attractive about someone that is looking to like grow, and who knows where their life's going to be. I don't think you're lit. Who knows where their life is going to be in a year or two or five, and who knows what kind of passions you're pursuing, and who knows like where the road's going to lead you down to, And so while it's exciting on one, this I think I may have just burned out the whole lighter. Oh no, you're lit.
Puff break.
Yeah. Did you
There we go.
What's the dating on the Upper West Side scene like?
Oh boy.
What's the dating on the? You don't have to go. We can say as vague as you want about it.
Boy.
You can say as vague as you want about it.
There's a lot of girls and there's a lot of boys.
That's what it is, right? It's crazy.
Yeah, I believe. Well, first of all, I think the Upper West Side and the whole New York City dating scene is great.
You think it is great?
Because there's so many people to meet, and there's so many opportunities out there. However, what I think drives people not away, but what makes people, I don't know, like not appreciate it. And this was definitely my viewpoint when I first got there.
Yeah.
Is two things. One, it's so big, it's so massive, it's so overwhelming.
There's so many people.
So many people. There's so many people to meet. There's all these like, underlying rules and games that you have to learn. There's all the different subcultures within the Upper West Side itself, then also on the Upper East Side, and just all these different
How long you lived there for?
universes. This is my fourth year.
This is your fourth year
Yeah, this
there.
is my fourth year. I'm about to finish my fourth year, so I'm about to start the fifth.
Okay, but you're gonna stay for another year.
Yeah, yeah.
You love it. You
Also,
love it there.
Now, New York City has grown on me like crazy. My roommates are awesome.
How many do you have?
I have 3 roommates.
Nice.
Two of them are Florida boys and one's a Long Island boy. We have just a great dynamic in the apartment. We have people over all the time.
Nice.
Some of my best friends. It's just good. We're all kind of growing together. And especially as like my career moves forward a little bit and I feel more stable, New York is just full of opportunity. There's just insane things happening all the time. Everything that's human is there. So
That's a good way to put it.
yeah,
Everything that's human
you
is
can
there.
find just anything you want. There's someone there who's doing it. Um, but anyways, going back to the dating scene, so there's that, just the overwhelming element. Like I remember we're just walking into the first kiddish, and it's just like, oh my god, holy shit! So there's so many people here that I know from different places.
It's
and
crazy,
I
right?
don't even know yet what I really want, and yeah, it's just a lot. And the second thing is dating and relationships reveal a lot to you about who you are. So it's very growth oriented if you're trying to get better at it. And that's challenging. Sometimes it's a little painful. Um, it's definitely pretty uncomfortable sometimes. You will have some uncomfortable interaction.
Oh yeah,
So
dude. Miserable.
just those two elements mixed together give it this. It gives it a bad rep, but at the same time, everyone keeps showing up for it. So
what do you? Why do you think that is? You think it's because it's good? Do you think because it's convenient? Do you think it's because it's fun? Like, what do you think? What do you think it is that keeps people going? Coming, the Upper West Side has been a Jewish scene
yeah,
for the better part of
Yeah.
probably 100 years, if not more.
Wow, that long?
It's crazy, dude.
I think it's just basically it's the meeting place. It's like the watering hole. It's just people
Do you know a lot of do you know a lot of like long-term relationships that have come from meeting on the Upper West Side?
I know a few. I mean, I've been there for 4 years, so I haven't. It's only more recently that things are starting to pick up for certain people
Right.
as they kind of find their way. But yeah, there's definitely been people who have met their significant other there, and it's doing well, or it will show them that like this is not
For me.
your area, and they'll learn a lot about their religious level. They'll learn a lot about what they're looking for. So it's almost like that's why I said before when we were talking before the podcast started. It's like the epicenter, and then it will expand out from there, and people will go to the Lower East Side and the Upper East Side and Brooklyn and all these different places, and then there's these smaller communities all around it. But it's definitely the draw point. A lot of people come and they hear all their friends are over there. They hear it's a huge dating scene. It's New York City, which has an appeal of its own, and just people are like, "All right, I want to see what's going on." That's what my logic was.
I spent so many years going there every weekend, and
What were you going for?
I was going for the same thing everyone else
Meet
was,
some
dude.
nice girls.
To meet some girls, and also to have a good time with my friends. I mean, I was living
Yeah.
at home post college, and I really needed to. I needed that. I needed to get out.
Yep,
You know.
yep. I graduated in the middle of COVID. Don't worry about the fire.
Don't disappoint that. It's gonna happen, dude. Yeah. So COVID.
So I graduate in the middle of COVID, and I'm basically home for 5 months
In Florida.
in Florida.
What was your degree in?
Film.
Where'd you go to school?
UCF, Central Florida.
Nice.
Yeah, in Orlando.
Oh, I heard that's a great school. I heard that's a great film school. Film school, right?
It's all right.
Okay.
I am not personally a fan of almost any schools, but I'm not a huge fan of film school itself. So I was doing a lot of my own stuff. But there were people there who definitely enjoyed it more than I did.
So you didn't like film
and
school?
utilized it more than I did.
What was your degree in?
In film. It's a film.
There was no concentration?
No concentration.
So what was your favorite part about filming? I think 'cause you were always into photography and filming, right?
I mean, that's what I do. That's my work. But what was my favorite part of film school? Definitely meeting the people there. That was my favorite part of college in general. Just I got to meet so many people outside of my bubble.
Dude, so many.
Who think so differently and live so differently from my little world, and like to start all these weird random clubs. And it was just great to just go around, and I'm unleashed to talk to anyone I want to. So
And you took full advantage of that.
Oh my God, I spoke to as many people as I possibly could. It was
What was the campus
awesome
like?
in that regard? UCF campus is massive.
It's massive, right?
You need a car to get around. It's absolutely massive. Like these big open lawns everywhere. Um, and there's just people all around, just hanging out on the lawns, sitting on the benches. Every building you go to, there's people in the lobby area who are your age. I mean, college is awesome.
I loved college.
But also, you go to like the fitness center, and there's a random LARPing practice going on where people are practicing with fake swords, fighting each
Really?
other. And I'm like, I want to be in that club. How do I get in that club?
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
What do you have to do?
I didn't actually get into the club, but I did ask them about it. You have to like apply for all these things and sign up. And I was like, I'm already doing a bunch of other stuff, but you guys are cool. Keep doing your thing.
I fully support you.
I'm a fan. Whenever I see you guys, I'm like, yes, it's Tuesday at the gym. But yeah, there's all these groups, and when you go into the art world, you just meet the zaniest people.
Yeah.
Who who are just trying all sorts of weird stuff. And I come from a pretty tame modern Orthodox world, and then you show up and you're like, ooh, this is a little crazy.
Yeah,
I want to know more about this.
How'd you decide to go there?
Okay, so I didn't want to go to college at all. I had virtually no interest in. I wanted to get out of school as fast as possible. School was not my cup of tea.
Why not? What about it?
I was not progressing as fast as I could when in school.
The way that you learned.
I was definitely being held back a lot, being kind of constrained in place. Also, I was so full of energy. I needed to just be out doing things outside as much as possible, running around. Um, I needed to be kind of working with my hands, being super creative, creating things.
Yeah.
That was my world. I mean, it wasn't all bad. There were teachers that were awesome, and obviously I met a lot of my close friends in school, so that is a big bonus. But in terms of my growth potential, it wasn't coming to fruition there. So as soon as I was about to graduate, I didn't really want to go to college. My parents were adamant that I go, and I think in the end that was good. So we decided if I was gonna go, I was gonna stay in state.
Okay.
I wanted to stay in state, but not be right next to my house. So I decided mid state seems cool. I knew one or two people there. All right, I'll give it a try. I actually went to Valencia for a year first. That's like the community college right next to UCF.
Cool. Nice.
Like I cannot be here, so I tried really hard, did really well in school.
You didn't like Valencia?
Didn't like the It's not that I didn't like it so much. That was like my first experience being completely away from the Jewish world, completely away from my family, from my friends. I didn't know anyone.
What'd you think of that? Was that scary?
That was hard.
Was it scary?
Yeah, of course. You don't know anyone. I was basically uncultured at the time.
Did you feel? I was actually going to talk to you about this before about dating, but this will come up here as equally relevant. How comfortable are you being lonely or being by yourself?
Okay, so being by myself, very, very comfortable. I personally believe I don't know if mastered is the right word, but I'm really good with solitude.
Awesome.
Okay. I like being by myself. I also think I needed a period in my life where I needed to be by myself a lot to kind of learn a lot about me and how to regulate emotions. And I was learning to meditate for a little while at college also. So,
oh, really?
Yeah. So you spend a lot of time alone, obviously, doing that.
You still meditate?
Yeah. Meditation's amazing. 10 minutes every day. It's great. But there is an element like once you learn enough in solitude, well, then you start to get a little lonely. You want to go see people.
Yeah.
But there was definitely a period where I went through solitude, and now I'm very comfortable being by myself. And I understand the signal of, okay, I'm done being by myself now. Time to go see other people and be around them, connect with them.
Did you learn a lot of new things about yourself while you were doing that?
While in solitude?
Yeah.
Oh my, that was like the beginning of my
it's the most important thing, right?
Hyper growth education phase. I started questioning everything and reading like crazy.
So good to do that.
Writing like crazy. And yeah, that was intense, but very important and very good. I'm very thankful for that time.
Yeah.
There was also people around me who were kind of like giving me space and at the same time facilitating it. They're just like, yeah, dude, do that.
Do your thing.
Do it. do it, and then go get a job.
Dude, one of the most important things in my life was learning how to be was when I was lonely, figuring out myself, and being okay with being alone made an enormous difference in my life decisions, you know, and my trajectory, you know.
When was this happening for you? When about?
So I had a couple of big phases of loneliness. Okay. Number one, when I was in college. So when I was in college, I had a girlfriend throughout my time, pretty much in college.
Okay.
From like the second or third month of me being in school until I graduated in December 2017. I broke up with this girl, and I broke up October.
Okay.
So we were together pretty much all of college. Those last 2 months, most of my friends had already graduated because I stayed an extra half a year in Israel.
Okay.
So I was a semester behind, technically.
On a base.
That's right. So I didn't. I was extremely lonely then.
Okay.
And then when I was living at home, I was a little lonely. I was a different type of lonely. I was more lonely in the sense of feeling misunderstood.
Yeah.
Big
part of it.
And having to reckon with that and what that meant and why was I misunderstood and what does that mean? And then I moved to Seattle for a year when I was 24.
Okay.
I think. And that was interesting because I was living with three good friends in a house. We had the best time. But there were but everyone in the house was on a very different page in terms of pretty much everything about life, right? Religiously, very different page. In terms of profession, very different page. Politically, all of us were on different pages, but not vehemently different pages, just like...
They will keep the peace?
Everyone is able to keep the peace for the most part, yeah. But at the end of the day, a lot of time was me feeling like the people around me couldn't get me, you know, and so I would have to nurse my own thoughts and feelings and insecurities and whatever it was, and really deal with it head on, which was really difficult. And I have a good friend of mine that was dating a girl back and forth a bunch of times, and they both weren't sure whether they should be together or not. And and I was talking to them about it. I was friends with each of them individually, and one of them was like, you know, like, I wish you could teach me how I could be alone, so I could like spend enough time alone to figure out whether or not this relationship is good for me.
Okay.
And I'm like, well, you probably should do that before you progress your relationship, because like if the reason you're getting married is to not be alone, then which I think a lot of people go through, then I don't know how healthy the consequences are going to be. I'm not giving up on this. I don't know what the heck is going on.
The whole podcast,
literally,
these sounds in the background.
It is, dude. I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have
oh,
to.
Man, the fire's not lighting.
Dude, it sucks. I'm gonna have to call. I may have to go inside.
We need to get some fire specialists out here.
I mean, should be as easy as literally just lighting this fake log on fire.
Yeah, that one does not want to light.
But that's the source. So I think that
are any of your neighbors into pyrotechnics?
I don't know. I haven't met
fireworks.
I haven't met too many of them yet.
Okay.
No. I'll find out on New Year's whether they're into it.
All right.
I found out on New Year's and July 4th. My old neighbors are very into it.
Okay.
But it's Florida. It's a Florida thing. I feel like, you know. So Orlando. So you were in college, film school.
Yes.
And your favorite part was the people, which is understandable, of course. And at that point, you were starting fresh with everything.
Yeah, starting fresh with everything. Also, just going back, I love what you were saying about a part of loneliness is feeling very misunderstood. That was a huge challenge about going to Valencia, because that's when I realized that I barely understood myself, because I had kind of just been asleep through most of school.
Right.
And now all of a sudden, well, I can basically do whatever I want now.
Yeah.
And I don't really know any of these people around me, so I can kind of be whatever I want.
Yeah. And what are you going to be now?
Yeah. And so that question kept coming up, and I hadn't learned yet solitude, so I was almost afraid of being alone. So that became a very important mission, which, by the way, just a side note, this is why I have a great appreciation for the Eastern religions. I'm not super well studied in them.
Yeah.
You know, I just know bits and pieces here and there, but just from my little readings and the few people that I met, they kind of taught me how to meditate a little bit. And just from meditation, it gave me a good grounding. A lot of growth happened from there. And that's why I just have this, the Buddhists and the Taoists, they're awesome.
Yeah, they are.
Shout out to the Buddhists and the Taoists. They're great.
What about it? Just the isolationist kind of grow with yourself kind of perspective?
Well, mainly the meditation was what I needed. They taught me how to meditate. They taught me.
Do you read their literature, or you
a little
other
bit,
people?
bits
Or
and pieces.
it was mostly through people.
Mostly through people and through some, authors that are in the Western world, like Eckhart Tolle and Alan Watts,
Okay.
guys like that. And they kind of give you like the vernacular to approach meditation.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a lot of Jewish stuff that teaches you meditation, but it just didn't sit so well with me.
Sure.
And then once I learned it through the Eastern religions, for some reason I never felt so pulled into the religion. Like I never really wanted to explore their theology or anything like that. But they taught me how to calm my mind. They kind of taught me how to connect with things that are around me on a much more subtle level. And once those things start to happen, you can feel a lot more of what's going on
Sure.
inside. And that's why I was able to learn a lot about myself through solitude because of practice meditation.
Yeah.
Because of the people that I met who were inclined towards Buddhism and Taoism.
That's awesome.
I also thought they had a lot of beauty in the way they saw the world. There was a lot of peace there internally for those people. I was just like, I wanted.
And the way they carry themselves.
Yeah, I want to know how you got there. Why are you so warm to be around? Why are you're very present with me? How'd you get there? So anyways, that's just a side note. But going back to the college thing, yeah, that's what made Valencia tough. But then I met just tons and tons of people and just got better at meeting people from different worlds.
Isn't it great?
Kind of learned that there's usually a commonality.
I was gonna say that's one of the best things to discover is how much people actually have in common with one another.
There's a commonality somewhere. You find out they care about certain people, and there's certain things that they care about that it's not the same things you care about, but you care about it in the same way.
Yeah.
Again, and then you just connect with all these weird, wacky people, and you leave, and you're like, wow.
My family always made fun of me. My family always made fun of me for having the most eclectic friend. I loved it because that meant to me an individual. Want to go inside?
Sure.
Yeah, it just meant to me that these people
podcasting on the fly.
Oh yeah, dude.
Let's.
It just meant to me that these people had a real sense of self, like a real. Yeah, dude. Hang on to that. Had a real sense of authenticity And I didn't, and for a long time, I actually did not find that associated with typically religious people.
Okay.
Like any kind of set, by the way, not Judaism, but like people that are like typically, like just within the standard confines of what, the religious.
Is that a Stravinsky?
Oh, yeah. You're more than welcome to.
I have a funny story about those.
I want to hear
I'll tell you inside.
Yeah.
Should I put this down? Should I bring this down?
Yeah. It's still lit?
It's not still lit.
Then no, you're fine.
Yeah?
Yes.
At least I don't think it is. Doesn't look like it. All right.
Yeah. It's okay. It will know.
Okay.
I'm gonna keep this book so the smell doesn't get through confess. So and so a lot of my friends I found that were the interesting people were the people that weren't religious because they felt boxed in by the confines of what being religious meant.
Okay.
A lot of times for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why that is.
Why they feel boxed in?
Why people that typically speaking who are religious, not always, of course, but a lot of times, they have it feels like they are a little bit less developed sense of less developed individuals. A little bit less developed sense of self. And like I talked to my sister, who my family religiously never really grew up in any kind of box.
Okay.
Religious box. And I prefer to stay that way. I don't like to have any kind of set box that I say that I have to stick to, like I have my own relationship with it. I have my own understanding with it. It's been my understanding of what Judaism has been broken and shattered into bajillion pieces and put back together again a bunch of times.
Yeah.
And I was talking to my sister when she was becoming more religious, and she said she prefers the box because it's easier and kind of doesn't require that she has to like put too much thought into too many different things, because like a lot of the answers to a lot of these kind of existential questions are already laid out for her.
Yep. Gives a huge sense of peace
Right.
to them. This is reminding me of the whole almost pursuit of anything creative. You have to find boundaries at some point, otherwise the thing that you're making is too all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like for both you and I, is it still going?
I think so, but I can't tell. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I think so. We'll find out.
For people like you and me, it's hard for us to box it in so easily. I think it takes a long, like we're the type of minds where we need to
It's a
know
journey.
everything that's around the edges. We need to see all of those things and kind of almost like we're walking around the A-Roof, if you will, and just be like, okay, what is this? I need to know what that is until you've seen the whole thing. And then slowly it starts to just kind of congeal into something that's more solid.
Right, but it's driven by you. It's your narrative.
100%.
It's your narrative.
Yes. Especially if you have a very strong sense of. Have you ever heard of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People?
Yeah, I think it's actually on this
Okay, it's a
bookshelf.
great book. The first habit is be proactive. So if that sense has been activated in you, where you're very, I need to find out why,
Mm-hmm.
that's like your path will be. You need to explore everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Being proactive, but being proactive, I'm sure is. I mean, it's also just having the guts. I don't know why I keep on saying reconnecting. I'm just gonna pause it for 1 second. We're back.
All right.
Let's see. Yeah, part 2. We'll see how this goes. So, what's your religion? What's your relationship with religion now?
With the Judaism,
In general,
it's been getting much better. About say 3.5 years ago, I was kind of just doing it because I grew up with it.
Sure.
A lot of people around me were doing it, and I also like the lifestyle and the culture. It's wonderful. But then I don't know. I just didn't understand the whole idea of worship, and so I called my dad and I said, "Dad, you spent thousands of dollars on education. It didn't work. I'm so sorry. Let's revisit the basics, something like that." And I was like, let's revisit the basics. Just why are you doing this? Why?
Is your dad thoughtful about these kind of things?
Yes, very.
Okay.
Very. And so he actually got me a book. He became my first chavrusa.
Nice.
And the book was How to Be a Jew. Okay. Like simple, basic. And I already had.
How contemporary is this book?
It's written by one of the head rabbis of YU, so it's pretty contemporary.
Cool.
And I think it gets updated pretty often.
Cool.
So, yeah, from there, just kind of learning more about the basics. I already had a very spiritual background because of the meditation that I'd been doing and my connection to the Eastern worlds. So, and I'd already, my relation to creativity and the arts. So I had a spiritual side.
Yeah.
But it was very, like, it had no intellect to it. It had no.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it had no laws around it. It had no, how can I bring this spirituality into this world outside of my creative expression?
By the way, it doesn't even need to. It could be that your creative expression is the way to bring it into the world.
Right. But I did feel like
it was lacking.
There's supposed to be something more tangible here.
Right.
And I read a little bit about all the other religions, not a lot, but just a little bit, kind of just familiarized myself. And I was like, all right, let me learn a lot more about Judaism.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started learning with my brother and another chavrusa named Johnny Atias, who has a wonderful head on his shoulders.
Oh, from Surfside?
Bell Harbor. Yeah.
Bell Harbor?
Yeah.
Yeah, my sister's friends with his older sister.
Yes.
One of the sisters.
Yeah, I know, probably.
Yeah, tall blonde one.
Yes. And we started learning and just having these conversations. And then eventually I found a rabbi that I actually like listening to.
Nice.
And just, I think for me, it's been a very organic growth.
It's awesome.
Just, all right, I'm learning more about this. And then all of a sudden, wow, I'm keeping it now. It just feels natural to do it this way.
Do you think that it has to happen like as a coming of age thing? Do you think that it could be taught in in middle school or high school, or do you think you have to kind of go through the experience of like?
I think religion is maybe not, the word is probably not religion, but relationship to God
Yeah,
is super individual.
yeah,
I can't remember which rabbi I heard this from, but he said Torah is like a web. Okay, it's a very complicated web.
okay,
Very. But it has a lot of entrance points.
yeah.
And a rabbi's job is to help an individual enter from whichever point they are at.
Interesting.
So one person might be all the way on that side, and the other one's all the way over here.
Right.
But that's where they're entering from. And once you come into this web, remember, it's a web.
Yeah.
So now you're connected to the person on the other side. But
So do you think
you have to enter the web?
Right. Do you think that high schoolers are mature enough to do that?
Oh, not in the modern world.
Well,
Sorry, high schoolers. But I think just the way our schools and modern society as a whole, which is a big thing to say, is built, people mature just way slower. Way slower.
That is, by the way, certainly true.
Yeah.
There's a Wall Street Journal article that I think I've seen twice in the last like decade or so, where both times it was printed was about the advanced adolescence that Americans experience, that it went through like a decade, and the question of in the poll the question that they were examining was, what age do you think you're an adult?
Okay.
And like, at some point it was like 22, at some point it was like 25, at some point and I think today it's anywhere between like 30 and 40.
Crazy.
That people consider themselves to be like fully responsible adults.
That's crazy. This is, I'm like almost nervous about talking about this subject because I love this topic. Okay. And I've read about it like crazy.
But also, feel like
no, don't worry. I'll share what I have with you because there's a lot of good stuff here.
Cool.
There are, go back even more. There's a question that I stumbled upon when I was in college.
Okay.
That just exploded into this whole, I couldn't stop reading about it for probably 3.5 years.
I'm so excited to hear what it is.
And the question was very simple. What does education mean? Okay.
Okay.
And when you first think about it, it's like, okay, I have this degree and my education is my schooling. Great. What about before school existed? Is there such thing as being educated? And so I asked a lot of adults around me, and the answer that kept coming back is it's your schooling, or it's the way that you grow. Just these very unsatisfying answers.
Okay.
And this was the first time a question like really hooked me, and I needed to know more.
Right.
And also, it was definitely, there was parallels because at the time I was starting to grow a lot in my own way, and then all of a sudden, oh my God, I'm going to figure out what education is.
Yeah,
it's going to help me with my ego. So, anyways, do I have a simple answer for you? No, because it's a whole like philosophical discourse of how people grow and what's the nature of school and what's the nature of teaching and all these different things, and they're all, in my mind, they're all really worthwhile. I've written a lot about it. Maybe one day I'll put a book out, but
you should.
Yeah, maybe.
And you send some things that you wrote for sure, because I would love to. I have very opinionated thoughts on education too.
Okay, so basically, what I was discovering is the way modern school is built is designed to move in a very regimented way. Okay. However, people are very, very different. Now, this is very basic. We know this. Okay. School is also designed with an idea of people should know a certain set of knowledge and a certain set of theories and a few certain skills, and that's the toolkit that they should have to go into the world.
Right.
John Gatto, one of my favorite authors on education, says You want people to graduate with one thing: an enthusiasm for learning.
Yeah.
If they leave with that, they'll be fine most of the time.
Yep.
Okay. And there's this, it's so funny. There's like this secret subculture of, they think school came from like a horrible place and it's there to control everyone. And it's whatever. Some of it is fun to like look into, and it's like, maybe, but I don't buy all of it.
You're right. There are points that fit, but
Yeah.
then you have to force other points to fit too.
Like it came from Prussia. Okay, like the Germans designed it.
Okay.
And we saw it overseas, and we're like, that works for industrial workers, so let's bring it over here.
Oh, is that where it came from?
Yeah. And then this works to train our industrial workers. That's why you have bells and things like that. And so,
Oh, that's interesting.
yeah. And so we're going to use it as a mass model. But then where the conspiracy parts come out is like, okay, now it's designed to control their mind and teach independence and,
The dependence.
I'm sorry, yes, teach dependence. It's designed to like teach you not to care about
stifle innovation.
Any topic is over any other topic. It teaches you, your place. Raise your hand when you're supposed to. It teaches you that privacy is not real. That's why there's homework that goes into the home.
Oh, that's
with
interesting.
You. So just all these ideas, and some of them have merit in interesting ways. But the thought of like the whole thing is designed to control mass. I'm just like, all right.
Maybe.
Probably
not.
Yeah. So, anyways, there's all those fun ideas, but I think it's very universal, and almost everyone will agree with this, that for individuals' needs, it's not flexible enough. Okay.
Yeah.
And there is, or there should be, a lot more exposure to what the actual world is like, because the only way you're going to learn about it is you need to interact with it a lot more. And since school is such a confined space, you're not actually interacting with the world all that much. You don't really know anything when you come out. A lot of the information that you learned in school, how often are you actually using it?
Right.
And then let's say, go ahead. Besides for
to put, I think that I think that like what you said actually earlier is probably the answer in this case, which is that it's probably trying to help you learn to learn.
Okay.
That's something in my eye. I'm sorry that I'm not poking at it the entire time, but that you learn to learn, and that the ground, like what you gain from, let's say, what you learn in high school is not knowledge that's going to stay with you for the rest of your life, but the ability to learn how to put things together, discipline for sitting for extended periods of time when it's not necessarily easy or natural to,
right,
if that's something that you're more inclined to or not,
if that is the premise, though, we can do it in a lot better ways. A lot better ways.
Certainly.
Yes.
Certainly. But I think that's what I bet a lot of people would respond.
Okay.
I had the other very extremely disappointing conversation one time with a rabbi in Frisch, where I went to high school, and I called him, and we're talking about. I called him I think a year or two after I was in Israel for the year, and I was talking to him about the percentage of Jews of the kids in my grade that that are no longer religious, and is an Orthodox school that parents would pay $25,000, $30,000, $35,000 a year to send their kids to, and if you have anywhere between a 40 and 60%, turnover, like that's a little high, and basically his only response to me was, well, you don't do this, so you don't get what it's like. And so because you don't get the sacrifices we make as teachers, so you can't have an opinion about it. And I'm like, well, if that's really the best that you have to come up with, then I kind of get why this problem exists. If you can't take responsibility for that,
I'm gonna pass out.
But I have students myself. Like, if I have a class and my students aren't engaged, you know what I say to them? I'm like, I'm sorry that I didn't prepare this class well enough to keep you guys engaged, because that's my responsibility. Like, it's not your fault that you've been sitting behind a desk for 8 hours, and now this class that I didn't do my job for properly is not holding your interest, when all you want to do at 15 years old is get up and go play basketball or volleyball. And I screwed up by not stepping up and making this material digestible and easy enough for you to learn.
I don't know that that's your fault. I have two things here. One, what the rabbi said is crazy, because schooling is the most public thing on planet Earth. Everyone goes to school. everyone sees it.
Yeah.
Literally everyone sees it on the inside. Everyone interacts with students and teachers.
Yeah.
It's the most public thing of all time.
Yeah.
Okay. Next thing on what you said, I think there are a ton of teachers who legitimately care like crazy, like you. They want the kids to improve, they want the kids to learn. You're working against a whole machine that's working against you.
Yeah.
Okay. It's so, I'm speaking from like my mind when I was a young kid in
Yeah.
school. Okay. There was no way I would let you into my mind. Okay. I don't know you. You're a random stranger who all of a sudden I've been told is in charge of me.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't care about what you're teaching because I don't understand how it's going to serve my life.
Mhm.
Because I barely have an idea of what my life is.
Right.
Because I have no real interaction with the real world.
Right.
And I'm full of energy. I need to run around like crazy.
Energy and hormones, dude.
Energy and hormones. All of my boys are in the room with me, and there are all these girls here, and there's
So many opportunities for you to look
there's
at, dude.
no way I'm gonna learn. Okay. And then on top of that, there's already like what my relationship now is with learning. If a lot of what I associate with learning is this painful sitting in a classroom all the time, and it's super boring and it's super painstaking and it's I just don't want to do this anymore. Well, now that's my relationship with learning. I don't want to.
Dude, that's why I'm not going to. It's why I'm not going to grad school, dude.
Oh,
I can't do it. I don't want
you
to.
don't want to be in the classroom again.
I can't. I don't want to put myself through that whole process,
Yeah.
application process, the stupid essays, the stupid.
Mhm,
I mean, the whole thing, like the amount of knowledge, amount of learning that I've done in the last 5 years of my life
Mhm.
is far more than I've done in the previous 25 years of my life.
Excellent, man. That's great.
But I love learning now.
Yeah.
And I can't, but I like learning the way I learn, and and it works for me. And I'm going to have to, and in order to become a psychologist, in order to become a therapist, in order to do whatever, in order to get a master's degree in English, so I could teach, and I could teach on at a university level,
Mhm.
I have to sacrifice the way that I learn best
Mhm.
to fit in another mold
Mhm.
that is generic,
Yep. Yep.
and I'm not going to do it.
Boy.
And I'm not going to do it, dude.
You can't get me.
You can't get me, dude. I'll teach at Orthodox high school the rest of my life, and I won't need a degree, and I won't need a master's degree, and I'll keep on doing the podcast, and I'll keep on doing my own thing, and
You
just
keep crushing that podcast.
I'll keep writing and doing my own poetry, and whatever. And
Hey, man, that's special.
that's the way I'll do it. But I'm not. But you know what? But the problem is that I feel like the world's missing out. Forget about me. There's so many people that they're weeding out that we need more people like them. There's so many people that feel like the box doesn't work for them, and then if they see that someone else succeeded out of the box, then that would motivate them and
Yep.
get light that fire in their butt to get them to figure out how to make it work.
Yes.
As opposed to I can't do it because I can't do this generic thing of sitting behind a desk or writing or following these very specific steps in these very specific ways to apply for grad school.
Yep. I have a lot to share with you. First of all, congratulations to you, man, because figuring out your own kind of learning style and waking yourself up is a very important thing. You probably remember when it started.
Yeah, it started when that's why I went back to Israel for the second year.
So
it was because I knew that I would need to learn how to continue learning by myself.
Amazing. It's usually a very impactful memory for people.
Yeah.
Because it's one of the most important things that'll ever happen to you. So the premise of the book that I've been like slowly writing over time is it's trying to get young people. I'm saying young people as if I'm not one of those people.
Yeah, sure. But us.
It's us. It's basically trying to get them to snap out of the stupor that a lot of them are in and start learning whatever way they want to. And it just gives you all of these tools. It gives you all the obstacles that have kind of put you to sleep. It's like, here's kind of what you just went through.
Yeah.
This is why you feel this way. And it's in your hands now if only you recognize that you're holding it. And as soon as you recognize you're holding it, it's one of the most important things that happens to you, and it's awesome.
Oh yeah.
And you will start to grow like crazy. And then another thing I want to tell you, there's a book called Late Bloomers, which is all about this idea of they're like people who leave, the structures that are built for them, and they're like a carriage that's been built with square wheels, so it's not rolling very well. And until they finally realize that they need to get out and replace the wheels, all of a sudden they start rolling much faster.
Oh yeah.
And usually, not always, but usually they have some special skills that are, they can utilize later in their career or in their relationship, whatever.
Yeah, sure.
Another thing is, the schools and a lot of the jobs are tied together.
Yeah.
They're kind of, it's like a tunnel into the job world. So you recognize when you come out of it, it's like, I didn't want any of that stuff anyways. And if I do want that stuff now, well, now I have to not brave, I have to withstand this structure.
Yeah.
I don't fit
for the rest of my life.
Now, some people will do it just because it's good pay. And I love a lot of these people who do it. There are people that are very close to me, but I don't know. For some reason, they're able to fit better into the mold without losing themselves so much. And they're just like, all right, it's a job. I'm able to kind of be there. And then I come home and I get to live my life after. For some people, they can't do that, like me.
Yeah, but even within those people, how many of those people maintain a legitimate sense of self as opposed to their lives becoming basically a numb routine? That's the other thing. I think a lot of people. I think that you have to. I think that you have to shut off such an integral part of yourself in order, if you don't naturally flow in that system, right? You have to shut yourself off to such an extreme extent that you kind of lose. Like I think everyone has that spark, but I think you can lose the spark. I think you can lose that sense of. I think that you can ignore your who you are, your sense of self for so long that it's just buried. Yeah. Do you ever read The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand?
Only bits and pieces and a long time ago.
It's one of my favorite books, dude.
Okay.
It's one of the only fictional books I love.
Ayn Rand.
Ayn Rand. Yeah, dude. She's. The book was incredible, and there's one part of the book that legit made me cry every time. I've read it like 3 or 4 times.
Okay.
And it's the book's about 2 architects, and there's one guy that he wanted to be an architect because it was a very prestigious position and you could make a lot of money and everyone looks up to you and you're one of the people that's designing the skylight, what do you call it, the skyline in New York, and he wanted to contribute to that. But he didn't want to contribute because he wanted to express himself. He wanted to contribute because he wanted to be famous. He wanted to be successful, right? Okay. But he really wanted to be a painter. Okay. And he never told anyone this. It's just what he loved when he was a kid. But his mom had taught him as a kid, painters don't make anything. It's not a good thing. Become an architect. And so this guy becomes an architect, and he's 40, 45, 50 years old, out of shape, doesn't have great relationships, made it to the top of this, corporate ladder, you call it, whatever, the architecture ladder. He's at the top. His partner drove out his other partner. He's a solo guy running the show, and he's miserable. And every night he goes home and he has a shed in the back behind his house, and it's locked. And he is one set of keys, doesn't give anyone. And then there's the other architect, Howard Rourke, who they've known each other their entire lives, went to school together. And this guy Rourke is the total opposite of him. Okay. He's not a sellout. He does architecture because he loves it, and it's just the ultimate form of self-expression for him. Okay. And he doesn't give in to people's commercial. He designs a building based on how he wants it, like how it works for him, and he doesn't take your you want me to design the building? I'm going to design it. I'm not taking any feedback. I'm doing it, right? Okay. And there's something that always came out so unique and powerful about all his structures because they were purely himself. And so the first guy brings the authentic guy to the shed, and he unlocks it and he opens it, and it's just dozens of canvases. And the way the writer described it, Ayn Rand described it, was like like a 10-year-old was stuck in a 40-year-old's body. And he's like, and you could see like the little sparks of like where the potential was, but it was gone for so long, and it was stifled for so long. And so you didn't, and the way that she creates this mood where they're not talking to each other. He walks in and it's silent. He just pulls off like the cover from a couple of them, and like he looks at him, just see in his eye whether or not like the initial response is this is awesome, or like and like he's like, she sees in his eye, and he sees it in the guy's eye, and he shakes his head, and he's like, I think it's a little late, and he goes, I understand, I gave up on it for 30 years, whatever it was, and he went back, and that was it. He gave up on it, and like that shattered me, because that's my biggest nightmare, dude. Is waking up at 35 or 40 at 45 and being like, where that part of me go? Where that sense of me go? And I fight so hard to not let it get stifled. But you have to fight for it. Like it's like the world goes out of its way to really try to crush it out of you.
Big time. Big time.
And you need it. That's why you need loneliness to a certain extent to discover that.
Solitude.
And you also have to realize that that the giant, like that tunnel, like you described, from school to a lot of these jobs, or a lot of is a path, but it's not the only path. No. It's not the exclusive path. That
the way I like to describe it is there's a massive highway in front of you. Okay.
Oh yeah.
And everyone's taking the highway. Okay. And it doesn't mean where the highway is going is bad. It's just everyone's taking that road. Okay. Until you realize that there is a map. There's this whole other world out there. And there's all these different paths going out into the jungle, and you can take whichever one you want.
Yeah.
Everyone is riding in some sort of carriage. If you go to school, they equip you with a Honda Civic, and you get to choose what the outside of the Honda Civic looks like, but the internals are all the same.
Right.
Okay? But if you want to take a different route, you have to build the whole carriage.
Oh yeah.
It takes longer. Also, it's going to break as you drive along, because you realize you put the wrong wheel in the wrong place, and your suspension doesn't work, and you're holding the map upside down.
Yeah.
So that's organic process, which is much more
difficult
and challenging, but it's just
dude. There's nothing else. There's nothing else. There's nothing else.
So this topic is. I mean, I can see it lights you up. Also, most people.
It's what life is about.
It really speaks to them. So that's why I've been collecting just little bits of information from random places. A buddy of mine, Alad runs. We started this company. Well, we tried to start this company in 2018 called Compass Education. What we did was we sent polls. We're in college still, Alad and I. Okay, we sent polls to our friends who had already graduated college and asked them what were the most important skills that they've learned outside of school that have been helping them with their life. Okay, and a lot of answers came back. Things like cooking, basic things like getting a car, getting an apartment, how to read, like legal stuff, finances, accounting, how to get a job, all those sorts of things. And then we tried to make 4 courses and
based on that.
It didn't work at all because we had no idea what we were doing.
That's okay. It's a cool idea. It's a very
shout out to the teachers who helped us on that, because they were great, and basically did it for free. But yeah, it's everyone was very interested, because it's like the universal struggle. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's like the universal experience right now of all people. They all come out of school and they're like, what what was that?
Yeah.
That was so weird. That was not
anything that we ever thought.
That was not as useful as I've been told it is. So again, like I don't like slamming on teachers and stuff like that, because there's a lot of really good teachers out there that I really appreciate, but they're working in a machine that's working against them.
Yeah. And parents are also tough.
yeah, if parents are the ones that can basically break the whole machine,
Yeah.
if they want to, but it's very sensitive.
I've had so far pretty much only positive experiences with parents, dude. Actually, one of my favorite parts of being a teacher is parent teacher conferences, dude.
Oh yeah,
Dude, meeting the parents and seeing where the kid came from,
okay.
and like seeing the similarities, similar to his mom, similar to his dad, similar like combination of the two of them. I've had parents sit down and I'm like, I don't know any idea who your kid is. like they kind of just sit down in front of me and expect me to know who they are. I'm like, I don't know who you are. I don't know who your kid is. You don't look anything like anyone I've ever met in my life. Like, and then there's certain ones that'll sit down and I'll be like, oh, like you totally make sense, dude. Like this checks out. Um, I've always approached all this as even students I have a hard time with, as we're on the same team. You want your kid to be the best they want to be. I want them to be the best they're going to be. And they're real, and most kids, especially when they're in high school, are good kids. Like people, like they're good, and like whether they're disciplined is another conversation. Whether they're mature is another conversation. They're good though. Like they're good. They have good intentions. They're generally respectful, generally caring, generally intelligent or witty or creative or something like that. They've got some. They got a lot of positive to work with. And like, listen, like we have this and this to work on. Your kid's an amazing kid, and we're gonna accomplish great things. But this is what you have to help me. Like you have to help me reinforce, because it doesn't help anyone for them to not express themselves. It doesn't help anyone for them to not be able to sit for an extended period of time, even if it's not pleasant, because they'll have to sit through unpleasant things. Even a freaking conversation with your wife that you don't want to have, you're gonna have to learn how to deal with. And so I'm like, I'm not doing this for me. I don't give a crap. And and all my students know that I don't teach full time. I don't do it for a living. I do it because it's important, and I think education is one of the most important things on the planet. Shimshon Afal Hirsch. You ever read anything that he wrote?
What's his name?
Shimshon Afal Hirsch.
No, I don't think so.
He's a German. He's in the 1800s. He lived in the 1800s.
Okay.
And he's people call him the father of modern Orthodox Judaism. I don't know if it's necessarily true, but he's one of the first people that really emphasized publicly in his writings the value of a secular education combined with the Jewish education.
Okay.
But he says that all the world's problems come down to a lack of education. And he also says that parents that hope to send their kids off to school and that their teachers are going to be replacement parents for them is never going to work out.
Nope.
And that every adult and what adults should teach their kids and what teachers teach their teenagers is that everyone is a teacher. Everyone could be and should be a teacher. And to live your life looking at everyone and saying, what would I do as a teacher to help this person next to me in what capacity that I could? And obviously, as a teacher, there are times where you can't control whether they, do homework or not, and there's consequences to those actions. But to look at them like that and to say, like, I just want the best for you, and it's a shame you're not doing this, but he strongly believes that almost all the problems that we experience as a world come from the lack of education.
Education is definitely very important.
Because education helps discipline, consciousness. It helps with morality. It helps with.
It does. It's just not the same thing as schooling, and
it's not the same thing as school. It's education.
It's not always a guarantee that education will happen in school.
Oh no, far from it.
Yeah, and that's why if this is like the toughest concept to bring up with parents, there might come a point in time pretty early in their schooling career where the education's not happening so much anymore. And so you might have to move. I don't know what way. I don't have kids, so there's no way I could be like, well, I'll just do this. But maybe they need a little bit of less school for a while. Maybe they need a different type of schooling for a little while.
Right.
Maybe they need to work at some, I don't know, job. You can't say that kids should work, but I don't think it's so crazy when you see
internships are fun.
Yeah, internships or people work at summer camps.
Also, you'd be shocked with what kids are capable of, what people are capable of doing, dude.
So much stuff. And that's why what brought us to this conversation back in the early days, people would mature much quicker because they had to.
Yeah.
Like I read a lot. I see you have here Albert Einstein's biography.
That was a tough one, dude.
Yeah, very tough one. He also wrote Benjamin Franklin's, which is one of my favorite. Benjamin Franklin was like full on working when he was 12.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, we don't all have to be like Benjamin Franklin, but there's definitely some good logic to the idea of his. We could look at the kind of schooling that he did, because he did a little bit of formal schooling and a mix of at-home stuff and a mix of got sent away to study just one topic, that kind of schooling. And then he was working as at an apprenticeship under, I think it was his brother, and he was learning a lot of stuff that way. And as soon as you get thrown into the world, you're going to start learning about it.
Yes.
All of a sudden, you're in it. Now you learn about people and about the nature of.
Same reason I couldn't talk to anyone until I got a sales job.
Yeah, there you go. So there's this awesome book called Rules of Unschooling, something like that.
Nice.
Okay, and he says that most people, as soon as they graduate, they have to learn everything on the fly, like just about everything.
Yeah.
You do. Any relationship you get in, whatever new hobby you pick up, whatever new place you go to, whatever new job you get, you're basically just going to learn everything on the fly.
Yeah.
So just start doing that earlier.
Yeah.
And you'll get more used to it.
Encourage failure, I think, and not encourage, but encourage trying new things out and not necessarily immediately succeeding at it. I think that's a really important thing.
And so I really do believe that a lot of our structures basically just extend childhood.
Yeah.
And so we just grow up slower now. I guess that's part of the modern world.
I think it's got to be that. And it's also obvious, and I guess it's also societal values. I mean, like by the time my dad was 24, he was married with a mortgage and a kid. Mm-hmm. And nowadays most of the people that you ever hear about that are very religious,
Mm-hmm.
But like my dad's not a particularly religious guy. Mm-hmm. He's a text. He also has a very own unique relationship to it, to religion and Judaism. But but I mean, he's definitely he's always worked. Yeah, he has his own business, and I mean, he was doing these things since he was a kid, but he also has been hustling since he was a kid. And it's just he always has a I'll figure it out kind of attitude about life that I actually don't have, that I really, really wish I did have. And I try to make there are things I try to do, but I find that I don't know whether it's because I started doing it so late in life, but I find that it really, really depletes my mental and emotional stamina.
Okay.
To just figure things off the cuff. For example, if I know the jogging route that I go, I could kill a jog, but if I don't know where I'm jogging, then I'll stop after a mile and change, because I'm like, I just don't know where I'm going, how far I've gone. I don't have any kind of it's very difficult. It's exhausting for me to put it to piece it together, and that's something that he feels very at home with.
Okay.
And I guess that's due to So it could be personality. I'm sure it's a million factors. I'm sure it's nature. I'm sure it's nurture. I'm sure it's growing up the way he did with his parents and with his siblings and with whatever, and then and the way that his relationship to his parents, his relationship to money, his relationship to work, what that meant, and what relationship.
Yeah.
So obviously, there's too many factors to really be able to kind of pin anything down like that. But it's a really tough thing to do, to have the confidence, to have to feel like really that confidence to say, I'll just figure things out.
Yeah, it's a very high level of trust in self, kind of in world, also in your learning ability. It's just, I will figure it out at some point.
Yeah.
So everyone listening to this podcast, that should be the take-home.
So what do you think? We can wrap up soon, but if you want. But but I love the film industry. I've always loved the entertainment industry, rather. Okay. Entertainment more than film. I'm not technical in terms of film, but I love movies.
Yeah, I know you love movies. I've heard.
And
don't need to sit still in absolutes.
No, yeah, it's not, I'm not. You know what? I have not been into Star Wars since episode 1 came out,
I don't
dude.
know why that line just came to me.
I love the first 3 Star Wars movies, dude. The next 6.
I watched The Big Lebowski last
that
night.
movie. Last night, really?
I've seen it once before, but I've been buying scripts and just reading the
I have a
script.
bunch of scripts here, by the way.
Yeah,
from tomorrow.
and then I have a ton of them at home that I need to read.
Nice.
And then as soon as I finish the script, I'll just watch the movie.
So you read the Lebowski script?
So I read the Lebowski script. Almost nothing in that movie is ad-libbed. They like wrote everything verbatim.
But no, also the script will reflect what do you call it? The improvs, the improvs and the updated versions.
Not always.
No,
unless they are updating it, and I just didn't know that. That's very possible. But
I'm sure the final copies that you're getting your hands on are probably the studio takes.
I think I've heard somewhere else that nothing was. Everything in the movie was very scripted.
I believe that.
Very, very scripted.
I've heard that about The Office. The show. Really? I've heard that almost nothing. I heard that every look was scripted.
Wow. That's impressive.
Or almost every look. Yeah.
That's super impressive.
What do you think of the script relative to the movie?
The Big Lebowski, I actually found the script more entertaining than the movie.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Also, that might be because since I've started reading a lot more just in my life, it's just much more richer, the content. Like a movie, I love movies. I kind of remember the experience much more, but when I read something, I get a lot more of the detail and the nuance comes out at me a lot more. Because you're a little passive when you're watching a movie, until you watch it again. But yeah, reading scripts is a lot of fun.
You like the Coen Brothers?
Yeah, they're awesome.
They're awesome, dude.
They are awesome. They're geniuses.
Dude, they're so talented. I read the script for The Irishman. Did you watch that movie?
I did not. I was on Netflix, right?
It's a Scorsese. It was a big deal because it was a Scorsese movie that was on Netflix with De Niro and Joe Pesci.
Mm-hmm.
The script was incredible.
Okay.
It was long. It's a long story.
Okay.
But
I heard.
And then I watched the movie and I was so disappointed by the movie because the script's characters were so much richer than the way that an 80-year-old Robert De Niro was able to play it. And if Scorsese got a younger group of actors to do that movie, it could have been incredible. But I read the script and then I watched the movie and I was like, this. And I was excited for the movie. Okay. I love Scorsese and I was so excited to see that De Niro and Pesci were working together again.
Yeah.
And I was like, this script is so much better than the movie turned out, dude. But why'd you start reading scripts?
Well, I started writing scripts again.
Oh, nice.
So it felt like the right move to start reading very great scripts.
Yeah.
So I ordered ones like The Truman Show.
Nice.
I ordered Black Hawk Down.
Nice.
Interstellar.
Nice.
I got, what was in there? Shawshank Redemption.
Nice.
So just, big ones, classic ones.
What do you think of Shawshank Redemption?
I love Shawshank Redemption.
You don't think it's overrated?
I don't know. I don't know so much about the culture that surrounds that movie.
Just in terms of your own taste.
I enjoyed it. I really.
You think it's one of the best movies you ever saw?
No, I wouldn't put it that high. But I definitely enjoyed that movie. When he's at the end, and I'm sorry, everyone, I'm gonna ruin the movie.
But there's redemption. There's redemption in Shawshank.
Well, when he's just under that rain, I had the feels big time. That's a good example of there are certain emotional moments in movies, especially when I was younger and getting into filmmaking, and then I saw this movie and I'm like, oh my god, I'm feeling all these things right now. I love this experience of it. So Shawshank is among those movies that just got me to all right, I need to dabble in this a little bit more.
Awesome.
Whatever they did to me, I need to do to other people.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I've had that same thought when I was in high school. I wanted to be a screenwriter. Mm-hmm. Going to college, I was a creative writing literature major in college. My writing was shit. My teacher thought my first character was autistic. He was like, "Did you intentionally write an autistic character?" And I'm like, "No, why?" And he goes, I want to read the script to you out loud. I want you to tell me what this character, whether this character sounds like he's Elon Musk or whether he sounds like he's a functioning person.
Your teacher's so savage,
dude. And I was like writing a script because I loved writing. Writing a script is so hard.
Yeah, very hard.
So hard.
Very,
Totally
very
different
hard.
style of writing.
Mm-hmm. You have to be able to see it. You really have to be able to see it.
And it has to be real conversation. You have to write it like conversation, like the way that people talk.
That's why I keep track of interesting conversations that I've had with people. I'll write down just random lines.
Good for you.
In my notebook. Just, I don't know when I'm going to use it.
Yeah.
Something about the fact that they said it in real life makes it seem so much more organic.
Have you watched The Sopranos?
No, I've heard very good things.
My roommate just for the writing.
My roommate loves it.
Just for the writing. If you observe the writing between The Sopranos and almost any other TV show, you could tell why there's so many hacks in Hollywood and why this gets the love that it does.
Okay.
Because the conversations are human conversations. These are conversations. Yeah, some obviously there's cheesiness, but like the family dynamics, you know, like the way that people talk, like and it's funny, go full circle to music. A lot of times people say what Jerry Garcia at least would say about music was there's the unplayed chord. That's like that's one of the most important things in music, where like you could play that next note and you don't, and that like that lack of space, that empty space is a statement in and of itself. And a big part of writing is not hitting your audience over the head with the writing and letting everyone soak with just a hint that they're able to put together, you know, because that's when people talk.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Have you written anything besides for the one that got thrashed by your teacher?
I haven't written anything full. One of my big problems when it comes to long form writing, I'm a really, really great short form writer.
Okay.
I have
for some sketches.
For sure, dude. I'm always happy to help, dude. Really. I have a very hard time keeping track of a full story.
Okay.
And so I have script. I always wanted to write. I have probably 30 pages of a Springsteen script about Springsteen growing up, and his experience, like his life, and like what drove him to, like, just based on everything I've read about him in his songs and his Broadway shows and his own books and his biographies about him, and just like I just knew so much about him. I wanted to make a movie out of it. I've been making one with Jeremy Allen White.
Okay.
Who's acting as him, making the album Nebraska. But I have that's the only script I've worked on. The rest is pretty much poetry or lyrics.
Okay.
Or thoughts to myself, or just you know, whatever. But I would need for anything long form, I would need a collaborator because I can't keep track of a story like that. Yeah. I need something that could do big picture and I can fill in the details and the nuance, you know? Are you a big picture kind of guy?
That's my strong suit.
Really?
I'm so bad with like getting all the details in, but I'm so good with the overall concept.
Right.
I can come up with overall concepts for days, but then I need someone to write an actual character.
Awesome.
Fits into that. So we'll talk.
Yeah.
Off podcast. But yeah, man, writing scripts is awesome.
You enjoying it?
It's really hard. I mean, right now I'm figuring out which direction my business is going to go in.
You work for yourself?
Yeah, so I've been working for myself for about 2 years.
Nice.
Off and on. I think I realized that I built the wrong company by accident.
Cool.
Okay?
Yeah. That's a good thing to realize. It's better than not realizing it, right? It's better than not realizing they have a wrong company.
Basically. I basically what happened was I built a production company. Production is not my strong suit, okay? But because a lot of the people that I'm around, I'm much better at production than they are. But it's not my strong suit in the film world.
So
I'm much better on the creative concept side, on the strategy side. And I'm also very good with people. So I'm very good at bringing all the people together and kind of getting the move happening. Not so much the producer, actually, because the producer is the one who moves the money
And the people.
And sometimes, yeah, in a way, I can be the producer, but they'll do all the logistics and make sure all the locations and basically all of the details come together through the producer. But it's like a quasi producer director position where I can choose certain people who fit right into certain things,
sure.
help them feel open to express and that kind of stuff, help them understand the concept that we're trying to get forward or the experience that I'm trying to get forward to the audience. So right now we're moving towards a studio marketing agency mix.
Nice. That'd be so cool.
Yeah, we're not exactly sure how to approach it yet.
How do you get customers?
So we shot some concerts with Matisiahu and Zusha and Top Cats.
Cool.
And we just finished editing the shows and they look great. So we were thinking this might be a good, like, this is our client service that we do is we record these very interesting show documentary style stuff,
yeah.
and we make our own content on the side.
There's a huge demand for that, dude.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out how to merge these two things together.
Dude, you should get in touch with the good jam bands, dude. With Goose, with J-Rad. Joe Roos is almost dead.
If they let us.
Dude.
That's the hard part.
Well,
first thing we need to do is like know what we're doing and be like, this is what we're doing. Let's build the team around this system so that if we approach someone like that, we're ready to roll.
Do you ever hear of the website Kello?
No.
Qello. Shoot, it's just a massive forum of live concerts.
Oh my God. I think
And
someone was telling me about this. I'm going to write this down.
Yeah, dude, definitely.
Quello.
Yeah, Qello. I don't even think there's a U. Kello Concerts. And I had a subscription for years because I would listen to concerts constantly.
Quello. Okay, I'll check that out. What we're going to do that's a little different is we're going to record the show with basically 10 cameras, okay? And some of the cameras are embedded in the audience. So you get to see people dancing and stuff like that. And the video is also like a little documentary about the show. You talk to the musicians beforehand, backstage, like talk to some of the people coming in, that kind of thing, just to build some excitement. Then it's the show itself. And to make it more valuable to either the venue itself or the musicians, basically we show up, we give you this recording the whole show, and we come with a photographer and we come with a social media person who's doing reels.
Nice.
And then you have like 50 pieces of marketing content that you can use
Awesome.
from having the show.
Great business,
You just focus on the show. You perform, you kick ass. We will do all this video stuff for you, and then here you have it all. Do whatever.
And you live in the best place for that, dude.
Yeah,
the Brooklyn Bowl. I mean,
Yeah.
Seriously, you got
Brooklyn
great.
is sick
Yeah.
for venues.
Yeah, dude.
Beautiful venues. I've been trying to take my roommates to all. I listen to a little more exotic than they do, and I'm trying to take them to like all these weird bands that I know about, and they're all performing in Brooklyn. So
Look up when you get a chance, you'll love it. Exactly what you're describing right now. There's a Grateful Dead movie on YouTube. It's free. And Jerry Garcia worked on it for years. And it was a recording of a concert.
Grateful Dead movie.
Yeah, into YouTube, and then I think it's an hour and a half, 2 hours. But it's a quintessential Dead concert with interviewing Deadheads on the side, people waiting for tickets, band members, stuff like that.
Well, if we can give it like a '60s feel for each one,
they
would love.
There's so many great bands that everyone that have such cult followings. Derek, you ever listen to Derek Trucks band or
Takashi?
Tedeschi Trucks.
Yeah.
Incredible.
My brother loves them. He showed me that.
Dude, they're so talented.
Yeah, they're very fun.
They're amazing.
The way you use that, I don't know what it's called.
Slide.
Yeah, the sliding.
The slide guitar, dude. He's the. Oh man, dude.
It's real good.
Yeah.
We're working at this show called Top Cats. They're a Grateful Dead cover band.
Get out of here, really?
Yeah. I think on their social media is like Top Cats Play Dead, something like that.
I'll look them up.
So they're all these Jewish guys. And
Get out of here.
Play Grateful Dead music, and it's so fun. Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that.
We recorded a few of their shows already. They're all good guys, very talented musicians. So
there's so much. There's such a. Look, we could wrap on this, but there's such I was gonna have to pee like a horse, but there's a there's such an abundance of talent.
On the go.
There's such a bigger abundance of talent than there is of fame.
Definitely.
And it's so much fun to discover that talent.
It's a little.
And by the way, speaking, and also full circle to the music, you gotta go to a blues performance with a kick-ass bass player, dude.
Yeah.
Because a guy that could jam on the bass just dominates the performance, and it could be in the background or it could be the dominating factor. You know, I love. I have a hard time picking it out. Okay. But when I'm at a show and there's a great bass player, I'm like, this is awesome, dude.
I have a hilarious video to show you of the bass player from MFE. I don't know if you know that
No.
man. Just having the time of his life.
I'd love to see it, dude.
And when I recorded Justin, he's dancing while he's playing.
Yeah.
There's an entire audience.
That's a
watching
flow.
it.
It's a flow.
Yeah.
It's
He
such
was
a
having
beautiful
a good
thing,
time.
dude. It's such a beautiful thing.
He was having a good time.
All right, dude. We'll wrap this up here. We'll do this again, dude, right?
Yeah,
It's a great time, dude.
This was real
This
fun.
is so much fun. All right. Good night. Bye, everyone. Thanks for doing this.